Well, how are you doing today? It's good to have you on.
Well, I'm happy to be here. Thank you, Keith.
It's a pleasure to talk to you. I'm looking forward to our conversation.
Me too.
So, I'd like to give my guests an easy question to start out with, or at least it's one of my favorite questions to start out with. What's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
What's the best piece of advice I've ever received? I would say that the best piece of advice I ever received was from Mary Kay Ash. The
Mm,
woman that founded Mary Kay Cosmetics. She sent a letter back to me when I was a very young girl, and I wrote her when my mother had just become a sales director. And I was all in a tizzy. I was about maybe 7 or 8 years old, and I was having an existential crisis because I wanted to be an actress. I wanted to
okay.
be a comedian. I wanted to be a performer, and I felt anxiety as a 7-year-old because I didn't think that I was going to be able to walk in my mom's footsteps. And so I wrote her when I was a young girl and said, I don't know if I'm going to be able to be in Mary Kay or not, because I really want to do this other thing. And she wrote me back and she said, you always follow your own heart no matter what anybody else has done or expects of you. You follow your own heart. And that's what I've done ever since then.
I love that. Are you
I
funny though?
know, right?
So the question is, are you funny? Do you tell jokes?
I do. I do.
Oh,
You
good.
know what? Sadly, I don't tell enough of them. I am in the process, Keith, of integrating the various parts of me.
Okay.
And I have done stand-up comedy. I've done improv. I've brought both of those things onto the stage as a keynote speaker over a career of the last 15 years. I had been accidentally funny for a long time, and then I decided I wanted to be intentionally funny, and I loved it. And I'm also a complete strategic nerd in the extreme who loves to craft cocktail napkins for brands and businesses, and then I get real serious about it. So, because it's serious business, getting clarity about who we are and what we do and makes us different than everybody else. So, I am currently working a new signature program that blends the comedy and the strategy together.
That's so cool because my son tells me I'm not funny and I think I'm hilarious, but he disagrees. So,
Well, how old is your son?
dude, he's 12.
Okay, well, he's in that age now where he's going to start to hate you occasionally. So, and he's certainly not going to make you think that you're the coolest dad on the planet. You're on borrowed time, my friend. You are on
I
borrowed time.
know. That's good to know. Now I'm depressed on top of everything else.
You'll be funny in it when he's about 19.
That's right. Then I'll be funny again. So,
Yeah.
I'm always curious. People like yourself who have achieved certain things in life, we don't do that on our own and without some help from people. So, who were some role models or mentors along the way who you want to kind of give a shout out for being such an important part of your life?
Oh my gosh, I have so many of them, and that's such a great question because I absolutely love being grateful to those who have helped me on my journey. I mean, I have just countless numbers of people in my personal life that have supported me. But when I look at my professional life, there were a couple that really were standouts. One is Connie Podesta. She is a Hall of Fame keynote speaker and an absolute legend on the big stage. And 13 years ago, I crossed paths with her when I was on a competition for the National Speakers Association called So You Think You Could Speak. And I was
Oh, okay.
brand new and I didn't even know what I was getting into. And Connie was one of three judges, like American Idol judges, but for speaking, and voted me off the island. And I cried, and I was so devastated by that because I hate to lose. I hate not being great at everything. I mean, welcome to my neurosis, right?
Right.
And ever since then, I dusted myself off, and I said, no, I'm going to learn from this legend. And I sat in there and then a long and amazing friendship and mentorship blossomed from my experience with her. She made me a better speaker, and I'm forever grateful to her. And then, of course, I've got tons of other people. My friends in Speaker Flow, which is a technology firm that specializes in systems for thought leaders. They changed my life, completely changed my life. I was a chicken with my head cut off in this business for 9 of the 15 years at least, not knowing what I was doing, not capturing any of it, not putting any of it in a system, working far too hard for far too long for far too little. And when I worked with them and started to treat my business like a real business, and I was like a real CEO and not just a great speaker,
Right.
my life changed completely.
That's awesome. How have those influences shaped your leadership?
I believe that all of the influences that I've had in my career, and so very many of them, even just back to teachers, that taught me so long ago, I feel like all of those people put were like ingredients in this beautiful, divine stew of me that really learned, and I continue to learn that the real magic happens when we connect with each other and we are in mutual support of each other instead of taking and giving, instead of being just, either service with the exclusion of your own needs.
Right.
Right? I believe that true leadership will understand that this is a dance, that this is a circle, that these are hearts connecting, brains connecting, spirits connecting, that all want to do a good job and that all want to shine and all want to make this life have meaning. For goodness
Right.
sake, no
Exactly.
matter who they are, what channel they watch, what they drive, are they a person or a dog person? It doesn't matter. We all want to have meaning in this life. And so I believe that those people have influenced me to really, really integrate that truth, and that it informs everything that I do.
That's amazing. I love that.
Thank
So
you.
tell us about your personal journey.
Oh, how much time you got? Okay, I got some versions. I've got a lot of different versions. We'll keep this A, we'll keep it PG,
Okay.
B, and we'll keep it brief. Okay, so my personal journey is I'm a Midwesterner at heart. I was born in Minnesota. I grew up with a single mom riding shotgun in a pink Cadillac. It informed who I am, how I show up, my knowledge of marketing and sales and leadership from the earliest of childhood. I saw it happen and it got embedded into my DNA. I like to say my blood runs pink. And so I have always been a bubble. I was an Energizer bunny. I really am, most enthusiastic in second grade for a reason. Right. So my journey kind of starts with that framework. And I've had a corporate background. I was responsible for over $100 million of annual revenue for a Fortune 100 company in marketing and product development, because I can just see I can see how things come together in pictures. I can see products come together in pictures. I can see people coming together. I can see the product lines. I just see things in pictures and puzzles. And I had a very successful career in the corporate world and in consulting at a very young age, in my 20s. And then life does more snow globe moments. And I, changed that career to an alternative healing career because I got laid off from my big fancy jobs and I couldn't find another job because the universe wanted me to do something different. And so then I went, took off my shoes and went to massage therapy school and opened my own alternative healing center and started to teach about energy management and healing as a Reiki master. I led guided meditations on a weekly basis. I had a private practice. I was all about the mind-body connection and how we can leverage energy to our greatest effect in our physical bodies, mental bodies, emotional bodies, spiritual bodies. I did all that granola eating, Enya listening, tree hugging wonderfulness. And then my mom, who was my ride or die, she was my second. I was her sidekick for so many years. She got sick and she passed away
Oh, sorry to
in
hear that.
2006, and it changed my life completely changed my life. I closed down my healing center. I wrote my first of 5 books about the power and the pain of loss and changes that we go through in our lives. And lo and behold, I birthed myself becoming a motivational speaker, and I didn't even know it. And so, where I wanted to be on stage for so long, Mary Kay, when I told Mary Kay I wanted to be on stage, I found a way in my 30s to be on stage, and have done that for the last 15 years, and realized over the last, I don't know, 5 of these 15 years, that while I adore being on stage, I mean, seriously, the stage is my natural habitat. Okay. I chomp
Right.
it for a living. I love it. I love comedy. I love making people laugh with a handheld microphone. There's nothing more powerful than walking into a room full of strangers, drunk strangers, at midnight in heels down a basement that's dark and gross and sticky, and getting up on stage for 5 minutes, knowing no one, having a microphone in your hand and making them laugh. So
Yeah.
that is something that is, as you can tell, in my bones. And that much love that I have for that is not as big as the love that I have working with people individually to find their brilliance and to unlock their unique gifts and talents on the cocktail napkin that's only theirs, so that they can finally shine their brilliant light out in the world. It's like my nerd body versus took in my cheerleader body, which took in my sales body, which, all those pieces now are who I am as a result of my life.
That's amazing. So tell us about the cocktail napkin. That intrigues me because I know I remember um, at a conference years ago, someone said you should be able to tell tell your face story on a cocktail napkin, and so
Yep.
I've learned to be able to do it. So tell us about what that means in your sphere.
Yeah. So it really has started when I was in middle school. I was a super nerd, and I was in a gifted and talented program for years throughout middle school. And I had the same teacher, and we'd learn, you know, complex things. We'd learn about critical thinking and conceptual learning and visual communication, and how pictures can be so much more potent than words. So I knew this growing up, and I always resonated with it. When I read Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, the quadrant, I went, whoa, this just boiled down my totally huge problem that I've had, which is I focus on urgent and not important. Right.
Right.
And it's like, oh, wait. And so visually I saw that. And then I remember the food pyramid. I talk about this in my TEDx talk that I just did recently, called Doodle Your Dream: How a Cocktail Napkin Will Save the World. I talk about the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I remember that picture and what's on that picture because I studied it. I mean, it would be in every single class, right? All the ologies, the sociology, the anthropology, the psychology. And I had a visceral experience of it when I was on the bottom rung. I remembered him and the triangle. And then I
Right.
watched Simon Sinek's brilliant TEDx on the power of why, right? Why, how, and what.
Hmm.
3 little concentric circles, 3 little words created its own empire and reinvented leadership as we know it. So I already saw the proof of it, that pictures sell. And so when I was creating my own several years ago, I was competing and failing against all these other people that were speaking about the same things I was speaking about. And I was the one that had the Reiki master and the healing center and was running these $100 million of revenue, and understood how to do mindfulness and was doing it all the time, all the time, all the time, had books on it. How come I couldn't get booked? How come I couldn't get the fee that I deserved, that I knew I deserved? Because not only was I smart and was I relevant, but I was funny too, right? So how come I
Right.
couldn't make it work? Well, it's because I couldn't clearly articulate it. So what I did was I created my own visual model of my brilliance, and it's called, for my last book, not my last book, my latest book. Uh, And you can just even see it in your mind's eye when I describe it. So for me, everything starts with mindfulness in the middle. You can imagine it like a target. That's what we're all going towards, is mindfulness. What does that mean? Paying attention on purpose without judgment. Then there's 9 areas of focus around that center piece of mindfulness. 9 areas that influence our ability to show up in our lives. We have movement, meditation, manifestation, meetings, messages, mentors and masterminds, messes, media, and meals and Z's, because sleep is important and I had to
Right.
sneak it in there somewhere. But see, you see, now there's 9 areas of focus that I deal with in mindfulness, and I had 9 strategies that I could nestle into all those 9 areas of focus. So suddenly, when I could have something that I could draw on a cocktail napkin. When somebody says, "What do you do?" I say, "Well, I'm an expert on and I speak on mindful performance, the combination of mindfulness and business management best practices." And they go, "Really? I need that." And I go, "Well," and I flip over a cocktail napkin. I say, "I see everything." And I just go through the very thing that I just did for you. So I immediately saw the benefit of drawing my brilliance as opposed to just talking my brilliance. And then I had friends in the business and who ran their own businesses, artists and healers and marketers and speakers and authors and coaches would say, "Could you do that for me?" And I went, "I don't know. We'll try." And I realized I had a process that I could do to replicate what I did for myself, which is I'm like a CSI investigator for somebody's brilliance. I don't ask them what makes them brilliant. I find it in the wild. I look at it in their content that they've already created because I believe they've already been brilliant. They don't need to do anything differently. So the objective in what I do as a crystallizer to create this cocktail napkin clarity for brands and businesses is that I, in full presence without distraction, and I get into my heart and I start to feel all squishy and I start to think about them doing good things in the world, I will go and I will actually digest their content the way they intended it to be digested. I will actually read their books. I will actually listen to the entire podcast interview. I will actually watch the entire webinar. I will actually interact with them in their material, the way that they designed it to be. And because very few people will. We're living in Squirrel Town. There's no way that people are reading a 200-page book right now. So
Yeah,
I
right.
actually
Exactly.
do those things, right? And I not only do that, but I look at their ugly content too. So the stuff that's really hideous, word salad, thought spaghetti, I don't care. It could be a half-baked manuscript that's never seen the light of day and never should see the light of day. And I will find their brilliance because they've expressed themselves in a meaningful way. And so I digest all that, I distill it down to its essence, and then I design a one-of-a-kind model around it. And then I get together with them in that dance of co-creativity, and we polish it to perfection. So they have a cocktail napkin that they can believe in and that they can love and that can be in their heart. Because when they have that within them, that drawing within them, the whole world becomes a sales opportunity. Everywhere you go, you will always find a cocktail napkin and a pen somewhere, and you can then have a meaningful and passionate and powerful and enthusiastic and compelling conversation with the strangers that are put in your path on the way to success.
I love that. And I can tell that it comes out of your question to Mary Kay of how can I monetize my gifts and my talents and still find that place where I can crystallize what's God's given me. So if you're
Yep.
trying to work with somebody, what's the fastest way to help them uncover how do they monetize their gifts and talents?
How do they monetize their gifts and talents is to understand what the organic growth process is to money. And it is clarify starts first. Then when we know ourselves so that well that we can draw it on a cocktail napkin and it's within our hearts, when you clarify that process, which is what I do for a living as a crystallizer, which takes 2 days, just to let you know the amount of time it takes. So that process, when you know yourself so well and you're so distinctive in that way in a visual format, then you amplify it. You're amplifying it from a place of genuine love and genuine passion and enthusiasm and belief, right? I tell people in sales conversations all day, every day, that crystallization, clarify, amplify, monetize, how I'm talking about the organic growth of success, that's the hill I'm willing to die on. There's nothing that you can say to me that will convince me otherwise. I believe in this. And that passion that I have for it and the words, the specific words to go along with it, when I amplify that out into a very noisy marketplace, okay? Everybody's got things they can scroll to immediately. So how do you penetrate the noise of a digitally saturated, overwhelmed, traumatized marketplace? You have to have it with love. You have to shoot it out into the ecosystem with love and passion and clarity. They need to understand you all the time, all the time, all the time. And so when you amplify it with a megaphone, with your blogs, with your videos, with your speeches, with your books, with your pop-up networking, with your conversations in an airport bar, wherever you're amplifying your brilliance, when you're doing that same thing over and over and over and over again, flipping over that cocktail napkin so your recipient can actually understand it. When they see it, they'll understand it and they'll have an emotional reaction to it. They'll remember it and they'll take action on it. Therein lies the monetize. Clarify, amplify, monetize. So then you're not trying to pull your clients and customers to you. You are literally just radiating out your brilliance in a crystallized fashion over and over and over again, so that those who need what you offer are magnetized to you. And if you want to really monetize, you'll make it easy for them. You'll create a value ladder that goes from a walk pace to that run pace to the soar pace. So if somebody finds you and goes, "Hey, I like you. I found you.
Right.
Right? I understand you. I know what you're doing." And you just started to walk, you're walking together. And then when you're walking together, you go, "Hey, do you want to keep walking with me? That's going to cost you $2,500 to keep walking with me, because this is how I walk. This is what I do in the world." And they already understand it because you've sent only the world out to the world your cocktail napkin information, right? So they go, "Yeah, I'll walk with you for a while." And then they really love walking with you as you're delivering the services and the products that you have at that rate. And then you go, and then you get to the end and they go, "Oh, some of them will go, I want to keep going with you." And you go, "Okay, well, let's run, because I'm going to
Right.
start running now. And I'm going to run, and that's going to be $15,000. And that's how much it's going to cost me to do this thing with you." And they go, "Okay." Okay. And then when they get to the end of that, there's a few of them that are like, "Oh, I'm so pumped up about what I just got, the value that I just got. So now I go, you ready? You ready? Do you want to soar with me? All right, let's go. Let's start flapping our wings. That's going to be $47,000. And
Right.
they go, "Oh." And you started it with a cocktail napkin.
Right.
And they never got away from the cocktail napkin. They keep understanding it. You don't have to resell yourself over and over and over again. You just sell yourself once really, really well, and then create a smart strategic value ladder that leads them from one offer to another offer to another offer.
So to help us kind of see this, give me an example of a crystallized organization.
Thank you for asking. So, one of my favorite organizations to talk about is very special to me. It's the National Speakers Association. They are the global premier trade association for professional speakers and thought leaders, right? Anyone who's using the stage, the page, the screen to, to make an influence and to make an impact. So I had the blessed opportunity to crystallize their NSA member journey. And before they were crystallized, there was an awful lot of, you just got to come, right? Nobody could really
Right.
clarify what made it different. And so you had how many ever thousands of members they have all saying this different stuff, saying, "I
Mm.
can't really explain it to you, but you just got to come. It's an amazing organization." Right. And they would all sort of say different things. Well, I got a chance to crystallize them in a visual framework, which is something you can draw on a cocktail napkin, that now are the bones of telling a stronger story. Right. Because then
Mm.
people can use that as as they lean into it, and they can add their own color commentary to it, but the bones are the same. So just as an example, I'm a professional speaker, and I speak on lots of different things. Nobody speaks like me. We all have different ways of doing it, but we all want to be a better speaker and we want to build a better business. And those two lines are not straight. They twist and they turn depending on economic conditions and industry trends and our own personal lives, right? They twist and they turn. NSA, now that they are crystallized, having this member journey, they have 4 pillars that they go along with in the journey, no matter who you are. The community, because it's all about the people. The content, getting best practices, information, and insight that are going to materially help you grow your business. Connections, those all important strategic partnerships that come only from being a part of a global professional trade association. And then finally, credentials, showing that you are the best of the best, being given the esteemed accolade of certified speaking professional, being in the member Hall of Fame. All of those things. So the community, the content, the connections, and the credentials help you be a better speaker and build a better business. That's the cocktail napkin. That's the visual cocktail napkin that I was privileged to be able to crystallize for them. And it's so amazing when you can unlock someone's understanding of an organization and its value, because then they're halfway there. Because they understand, oh,
Right.
I know what you're offering now. Right. So I'm real proud of that. And because it helps, grow my family of speakers. I'm grateful to be a part of it.
And I can see that now, because if I come in and say, what's the benefit of joining this organization? Having those 4 points is like, oh yeah, definitely. I want to be part of it. If that's where my giftedness is,
It
as a speaker who had to grow, even to get to the point I'm at now, I would have loved to know how to do this better, because you do this for a living. You want to make sure
it
that your people's time with you is an engaging opportunity,
Yes,
to proclaim a
exactly.
message that you want to share with the world. So yeah, yeah,
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And I do webinars for them as a strategic consultant to the board. I do webinars for them to be able to help people. I see them as, again, this is the nerd in me from middle school, sees them as buckets. And when you can put your thoughts in buckets, then you can do something with them. Container is everything. Right? Having a container of our brilliance. If we don't have this cocktail napkin is a container, that's all it is just a visual container. And when we
right,
can do that and not have word vomit and we don't have endless words just trailing off everywhere, 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 which is what most people do. You know, frankly, it's like a pain when I see these top thought leaders that have these enormous platforms and enormous staff to manage them, and they say, put out 157 pieces of content a day. You know what? You don't have to put 157 pieces of content a day and have 15 people doing it if you can boil down your brilliance on a cocktail napkin. You can do that
right,
because it's concentrated energy. You're not trying to trick the system by using
right.
math, right? You're using energy instead, and it's far more potent. Opportunities open up everywhere in the real world. Remember the real world when people actually saw each other beyond just
Yes,
their
little
rectangles?
screens. Yeah.
That's when these kinds of things happen with real potency.
What you do sounds like so much fun to help people really kind of express their voice and
Yeah.
amplify their voice. If you were going to kind of nail down or kind of summarize a couple key things, what are some key ways people can amplify their message effectively?
Number one, amplify the same things over and over and over again. Don't amplify different things all the time, because what you're doing is just confusing the marketplace, and a confused market doesn't buy. So the first thing is know what you're amplifying and amplify the same, or not the same, but consistently. Over and over and over again. In other words, what are the hashtags? So for me, my hashtags are hashtag cocktail napkin clarity, hashtag crystallization, hashtag clarify, amplify, monetize. Okay. Those are the things I talk about. Hashtag thought leadership. I'm talking about the same things over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. So that's what we want you to do, is get clear on your hashtags. And number two, I would say always operate from the heart first. Write something, speak something, record something when it stirs you emotionally, because that's got enough energy and potency to pierce through the noise of mediocrity and saturation that we have that's surrounding us. So when the spirit moves you, that's when you amplify. And then, of course, you want to be able to be strategic about it and tie it to things. But I believe in organic amplification. I think that's the best way, because that's when we'll do it. Like, I write when the spirit moves me. I
Right.
don't, yes, I have a task in my Asana that says write a blog I have that just to keep me accountable to myself somewhat. But more importantly, I'm always aware of what my energy is telling me right in the very moment. And like, for example, today, I have some writing that I get to do today, and it's to write some marketing copy for a client to help them with, drawing that cocktail napkin, writing the right words for the right picture. And I constantly pay attention to my energy to see, when am I feeling optimal, when am I the most alert, when am I the most calm, when am I the most joyful. I work outside. One of the reasons why I moved from the Arctic tundra of Minnesota to Southern California was because I didn't want to be two different people, Winter Teresa and Summer Teresa. I wanted to be able to have, because Winter Teresa was unpleasant and very sad and not as nearly as productive. Okay.
And
So
not nearly as
I
funny, probably.
and not nearly as funny and not nearly as profitable. So we want to make sure that Teresa shows up. Big dumb hat Teresa every day. And Big Dumb Hat Teresa likes to be out among the flowers and leverage the outdoors when I'm creating, because when we can have breath of air and we can get away from our glowing rectangles, and we can remember that content creation, sharing our brilliance, comes from within first, and we can remember our humanity and remember why we're here, then that content is so much better.
I love that. I'm interested to know for you. I still live in the Midwest, so I still have summer Keith, and that's and winter Keith. So
Where are you?
Iowa's
Where
not
are you?
always the same temperature. But what are you excited about in this season of your life?
I am super excited about what my therapy is going to do for me. I'm super excited about the fact that I've been in therapy, and I've done a ton of healing work. I owned a healing center.
Right.
Okay. I mean, I know my way around a healing session. Okay. But I had not gotten in-depth therapy on a regular basis until last year. And it was as a result of great pain that I went to therapy, because I was really while I was delivering magic on cocktail napkins all the time, I inside was not great. And I started getting therapy and going into my gunk and going into, old beliefs and experiences, and just really seeing myself for the first time in a different way. Not just seeing my current self. I now see my current self, and I also see my last year's self, and my 5 years ago self, and my 35-year-old self, and my 21-year-old self, and my 11-year-old self, and my 5-year-old self, and my 6 weeks old self. I see myself and all the choices that I've made, and the pain that I've gone through, and the ways in which I've short-circuited my power and short-circuited my impact in the world because of trauma,
Yeah.
that I am real excited about this new season of me taking this healing and this evolution and this transformation that I have done as a result of seriously heavy lifting, okay, emotional heavy lifting and shadow work that is like ick. Getting into that gunk, I can feel myself showing up with more uh, not more power, because I was always a powerful person, but with more self empowerment and self love and welcoming and receiving blessings. That's
That's
what I'm
powerful.
excited about.
Yeah. I'm curious, what do you, as you think about the legacy you're going to leave behind, what do you want
Yeah.
that to be in the world?
Well, first and foremost, I want to leave being behind that I was a wonderful mother. I want my daughter to, um, take the best of me and leave the rest of me
Right.
in her own journey. And two, I want my legacy to be one that I lit the fuse of people's hearts and their inspiration and their dreams. And number three, I want to leave a huge legacy with the millions and billions of people that will receive the benefit of my cocktail napkins that I have co-created in this world to make the world a better place.
That is awesome. As we wrap things up, what are the key takeaways you want the audience to leave from this our conversation?
Well, for this conversation, I want the key takeaway to be able to be, uh, you know, go for it. Don't give up. Do what your heart is nudging you to do, and be courageous and unafraid to go after it. And number two, use a cocktail napkin to do it.
There you go.
Okay. And if you want to know how to do it, go to teresarose.com/clear, like clear as a bell. And Theresa Rose is spelled like there's a rose. So there's an H in it.
There you go.
There's a
That's a good way of
rose.com/clear. So take the brilliance that you have, listeners, and the dreams that you have, and see what you can do to draw them.
Thank you so much for sharing that and being such a bright light on the podcast today. I'm sure the listeners will tap into that energy that you bring, and hopefully they'll get their cocktail napkins out and they'll be able to crystallize the gifts that God has given them to really make a huge impact on the world. So thank you for what you do.
Thank you, Keith, for that vision. And I too see that for each and every one of your listeners. Thanks for having me today.
Thank you, Teresa.
You be well. Bye bye.